Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Raj Giri, and this is the Wrestling Inc. News and Notes Thursday show. And have we got a good one for you? We're going to be talking all about Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. We're going to talk about new signings, and we're talking about big announcements. But before we get into all of that, Raj, you're leaving us. What the heck?
Yeah. I was on for a year, and it's coming up at the end of this month. So yeah.
So
It's
at the end of the month, so everyone better just drink in Raj while he's here, because we're not going to have him forever. And that goes for everybody who's watching us now. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and show that you're supporting the show. It's a new show, and we just took 2 weeks off. Not the best way to keep it going, but what are you going to do? I was at WrestleMania. I can't help it. But Raj, you got to be in senioritis mode right now, right? Come on, you're phoning in a little bit, right?
I'm phoning it in. I have no idea what's going on.
You haven't watched wrestling in months.
WrestleMania was last weekend.
What's that? So you're just doing this show. You've got end of the month. I'm looking right at a calendar as we speak here, using the magic of turning my head here. You've got 3 episodes after this one.
Right? Yeah.
Is that real? 3 episodes? Right.
So, yeah.
This one and 3 more. Well, that means everyone in the chat, they got to leave some nice memories of you or comments about you.
Leave some good reviews and whatnot.
Yeah, give us some 5 stars and talk about how much you love Raj on Apple Podcasts or here on the YouTube channel. I say here on Apple Podcasts too, depending on where you're listening to it. We could use a few 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Not going to lie to you folks. So get out there and give them. Why don't you? But let's get into the first order of business. Actually, let's just say, everyone in the chat, thanks for being here. Jonathan Torres saying the best part of Thursday. Thank you so much. Maestro Dog 65, the Tornado, Anthony Y, George Bartley, Bit Milligan, Krana Shaw. We also got Mike Rouse in the house. We got Axe. We got Gluten Free, Killer of Demons. Thank you guys so much for rolling through. Tornado Anthony Y with the big question here. Will this show continue after Raj leaves?
I hope so.
Me too. I have no idea. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see if I get another partner, if it's just going to be me sitting by myself, chatting to myself, which is how my day goes before and after this show starts. Let's talk ratings, Raj. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite off the heels of the announcement that there will be a big announcement. AEW Dynamite rolled in with 877,000 viewers, and they got a 0.30 in the demo. Not their best week as far as ratings go, which typically I'd say this is normal, but this was after saying, hey, I got a big announcement, and usually that does something.
Yeah, usually there's an increase, and didn't happen this week. I felt like the rating was, a lot of times after WrestleMania, and granted, this didn't happen the last couple of years, but like Impact would see an increase in ratings when they were on after WrestleMania. It just wasn't a good number. And NXT, same thing, not a good number this past Tuesday night.
So NXT and AEW struggled. Is it something that I could look at if I'm trying to find a silver lining, that maybe for whatever reason this just isn't a good week for pro wrestling?
At some point, I just wonder if there's a little burnout. We had Friday with SmackDown, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and at some point it's just like, that's enough. So we'll see. We'll see what the AEW numbers are next week. But I just think it's been a lot. I'm overwhelmed. Like, I'm ready for a break. So
I was saying to the guys yesterday that last week I I actually was on commentary for a show on Thursday morning. I did WrestleMania. I did Ring of Honor on Tuesday or on Friday. Then I did, of course, WrestleMania night 1, WrestleMania night 2. Then there's Raw the next weekend. And I am about as big of a wrestling fan as you're going to find. And even I was getting through Raw going, I'm ready to tap out for a little bit. And I could imagine people being a little bit tired of it, maybe recording it and so they could skip commercials later or something. But usually the big announcement gets numbers there. I wonder if that is a sign that maybe it's time for them to stop the big announcements for a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like, look, I mean, this is going to be AEW's biggest attendance. In theory, it should be. That they've ever had. So in that sense, it is a big deal. Tony Khan has been overdoing these big announcements, and I feel like it's starting to become a parody. And yeah, I just thought like this was a press release announcement, not a TV announcement, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk about this announcement because I mean, we're dancing around it. Let's just get right into what it is. Tony Khan announced on Dynamite that AEW will be bringing back All In, and it will be held at London's Wembley Stadium. In an article on Wrestling Inc. written by Matthew Carlins, says during Wednesday night's Dynamite, Khan, alongside the freshly all-elite Nigel McGuinness and Adam Cole, revealed that AEW is reviving the All-In branding for an event in London, in the 90,000-seat Wembley Stadium. August 27th, it'll mark AEW's debut in the United Kingdom and its first show outside of North America. Now, everything aside, do you believe that this is a press release news, not big news for a TV show?
What did you think?
I thought it felt like big. I feel like the presentation and how they did it didn't hit the way I would have liked it to. And I don't know if part of it, I guess I was left feeling like you got Nigel McGuinness there and you're like, hey, we brought someone here who can talk to us about how special it is to be going to London. Adam Cole. And I'm like, well, you got Nigel McGuinness there. Why isn't he talking about this? It didn't feel like the announcement was done in a big way. I feel like this could have been a big announcement, but it was done kind of like, hey, let's do this backstage real quick. We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that it feels like it's a big thing. I mean, gosh, I don't know what kind of attendance they're going to do, but if they do 80,000 people, and I don't think they're going to do that, but they do that, that's bigger than any WrestleMania,
Yeah.
So it's a huge deal in that sense. My guess is they do about 40,000, but we'll see. AEW has always, in my opinion, overperformed when it comes to a new market. Like they do great the first time, and then they fall greatly the second time they're there. And this is their first time in the UK. I could see them just doing huge. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the big rub here is that it holds so many people. You're going to have to find a way to sell a lot of tickets. And now that is an area that is starved for wrestling, at least from big American companies. So they'll probably get a lot of ticket sales. But again, I don't know. I don't know what the prices are going to be. I don't know what is going to go in with it. But I think it's cool. I think it's a big deal. And if they can really sell it out, that could be a huge statement for them and a big thing for them. But of course, it'll be. We'll have to see if they can't sell.
I gotta think there's no way they sell it out. But if they do, oh my god, that's gigantic.
I mean, I think as long as they get close, or at least like you said, if they sell 60,000, I think that's a win.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's a huge win. I think if they sell 40,000, that's a big win.
if it is now, if it's one of these things where everyone's seats get moved to the one side to make it look full, and we're seeing tons of pictures of this 30% or 70% empty stadium, that's gonna hurt. But if they sell if they break their attendance record, that's a win for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean their attendance record is what, 23,000, I think, for Arthur Ashe. So they're gonna beat that. I think that's a safe bet. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Tim Greeny saying UK fans love wrestling. They do. Every time they've done a show there, not that there's been a ton of shows happening there, but it feels like every time a show is done across the pond, it's always incredible. And speaking of UK, I was a huge fan of NXT UK, and those were smaller shows, but the crowd absolutely was incredible week in and week out.
And props to Tony Khan for taking a risk. I feel like they kind of blew their going into Toronto, because I felt like they could have done way bigger, and they played it safe. They didn't, and I feel like now, we'll see. But I think it's taking some risks.
Yeah, and this is with all the hubbubaloo about what's going on in WWE right now. I feel like this is the time for AEW to strike. If they want to try to get new viewers, this is that moment, not only because there's rumors about what's going on at WWE, but also just Mania's over. So this is usually when WWE slows down a little bit. This is their time to strike. So hopefully it works out for them. Ryan W. with the super chat says they need Goldberg, Monet, Punk, and Jade's streak. I guess I'm assuming, Ryan, that means all to happen at that Wembley show if they want to sell tickets there.
I think Sting's retirement. I think that's the place to do it.
That would be huge.
Yeah,
because that's
one of the greatest careers of all time.
That would be something that would make me want to go out, because being able to say you saw the last match of somebody is a really big deal. I actually thought I saw Sting's last match when he was in TNA one time.
Yeah.
But pro wrestling, am I right? So he came back, but in the moment it was kind of cool to say I saw it. Speaking of UK, though, we talked about Nigel McGuinness. Nigel McGuinness is apparently signed with AEW. Nick Miller had an article about it on Wrestling Inc. He said, following his return to commentary at last week's Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, it looks as though Nigel McGuinness will continue to work under Tony Khan's wrestling umbrella. The AEW president and Ring of Honor owner announced today via Twitter that McGuinness is now All Elite, calling the former Ring of Honor world champion a legend in pro wrestling. As of now, it's not entirely clear what McGuinness's position will be going forward, though he received the All Elite graphic. Khan previously hinted that McGuinness would be a good fit for commentary on the revamped Ring of Honor brand. While McGuinness will almost certainly do commentary for one of the two companies, it's not an impossibility for the former Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Noah performer to step back into the ring. I am a fan of Nigel McGuinness's commentary. Like I said, big fan of NXT UK, big fan of Nigel McGuinness in general. But much like the locker room, it's starting to feel like that commentary table is getting a little full over under Tony Khan's watch.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I just feel like AEW has more talent than they know what to do with. We saw Jay White debut. I think Jay White is a fantastic signing. He's got all the potential in the world, but how many times are we seeing these guys sign with AEW and they just kind of fade away? And so we'll see, But I just haven't seen that discipline of like really committing to the people that are being brought in. I mean, geez, Miro obviously, has done jack shit.
Well, since his TNT title, he was doing stuff and then it fell off, to be fair.
Completely.
Completely fell off. He's been gone.
Right. I mean, he's completely gone.
Yeah.
And granted, a lot of these people seem like they'd rather be back in WWE right now. But Andrade and others. So we'll see. It just feels like Bandito has visa issues, but I don't know. There are just so many people. AEW has such a stacked roster, and it just feels like you're seeing the same guys every week. Orange Cassidy. It's same guys every week.
Yeah, it's also one of those things that becomes tricky because if we don't see them, we want to see certain people every week, but then that means certain people aren't getting on TV, and it becomes a balancing act. But I guess that's where it's kind of surprising with him working in football, and having to deal with a limited number of roster spots on a football team, and with the salary caps. You would think he'd be a little bit more aware of like, hey, I've only got so many spots. I can only keep so many people. At the same time, I'm happy everyone, like so many people have jobs and are getting contracts and things. But yeah, it becomes very difficult to find a spot when you think of someone new coming on. When I haven't seen Wardlow in regularly in months, it makes it hard for me to be like, oh, cool, so-and-so might get back in the ring.
Yeah, QT, go after yourself. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, you did mention Jay White, and Tony Khan also confirmed that White has signed with AEW, and this is from Kieran Fisher on Wrestling Inc. Says AEW came following a shocking appearance on Dynamite last night. The Switchblade was part of the opening segment, which saw him help Juice Robinson deliver a beatdown on Ricky Starks. It appears that White has his first feud lined up, and aligned with Robinson suggests that Bullet Club will have a role to play in AEW moving forward. Yeah, it's interesting. I've got to be honest about Jay White. It felt like so many people are like, Jay White should debut at WrestleMania, and Jay White is this and that. Then he debuted on AEW, and I suddenly saw everyone say that, this is nothing. They don't have room for him. And they kind of like, it was an interesting thing that like, but when he was an unknown where he was going, it was this, he could be huge. Now that we know, suddenly we've adjusted our expectations. It's an interesting thing that we see with wrestling fans, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I felt like the potential for Jay White in WWE under the Triple H regime was greater, but now it seems like it's no longer the Triple H regime, so that changes everything, And
yeah, I mean, it really does. Even if nothing's really changing, and we're going to talk about, I think, the biggest news, which is the Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes news here in just a second. But it really does make a big difference, I think, if you're someone looking at contracts, because you may get lost in the shuffle at AEW, as people say, but at the same time, at least you know where you stand, where with WWE over the past year, people have been put in power, taken out of power, companies selling, people are back in power, writings change, read formats, things like that. That's a very scary place to sign a contract with if you're someone who doesn't really know where you'll line up.
Yeah, it's all over the place right now. I mean, it just feels like it's a completely different situation week to week. And if you're looking to build a character or build your brand, you don't want that.
Yeah, it's got to be if you're a wrestler that has a contract coming up here, it's got to be it's got to be a very
uncomfortable
time. Yeah, like, because you never really, if I was a Jay White, and let's say I could pick wherever I go, it's a tough balancing act. Like which one stands out? It's very, very interesting, because you may get promised the world at one place and either place, and then once you get there, everything changes. Speaking of changes, though, let's talk about what I think was kind of the most shocking news I saw today. or at least surprising, and that is some backstage news on the plans for Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes and what happened on Monday. And this is a write-up from Eric Mutter on Wrestling Inc. Again, you can find all your top wrestling news at WrestlingInc.com. This time last week, most figured that Cody Rhodes would end WrestleMania weekend on top of the world. Instead, he found himself losing to undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns in the WrestleMania 39 main event, followed by him being pelted with a rubber chicken and getting wrecked by Brock Lesnar the next night on Raw. But fear not for the Code Man, as the beatdown by Lesnar appears to be the start of a program between them, and one that has evidently been in the works. Fightful Select is reporting that the Rhodes Lesnar program has been planned for at least a month prior to Raw this past week, and that the two were in fact always scheduled to feud against each other. As a result, while some plans involving Rhodes were changed this past Monday, the Lesnar-Rhodes feud wasn't one of them and was not the result of any interference from Vince McMahon, who returned to creative at Raw to a hostile reaction. It is also noted that Lesnar himself had been aware of these plans for at least a month and had been doing things to change his presentation and signal a heel turn on the horizon. So you can read more of that on Wrestling Inc. But Raj, I think this is a huge surprise to a lot of people that, you know, I see everyone on Twitter talking about how unhappy they are with how Raw went, but this was actually something that was always the plan.
And look, you know, again, I thought Cody was going to win this last Sunday, so maybe assuming makes an ass out of you and me, but I do think Cody beating Brock is a huge thing. You know, Brock is one of the most protected guys in the company. So yeah, I think it's assuming that's what happens, but who knows? Maybe Brock beats Cody, and but I don't see that. I think, you know, look, I thought Cody was hot. It was a moment in time. I felt like they didn't capitalize, but at the same time, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I'm willing to give this regime the benefit of the doubt. And because they've been doing great things. The last 8 months of creative with WWE have been the best I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, this was my thoughts coming out of WrestleMania. I was surprised too that Roman retained. I thought for sure this was the end of that story and they were going to go in, things were going to, you know, go in different directions now. But I've said to myself, I've second guessed them in this bloodline story before, and each and every time they proved to me that they were right and they had something even better planned and it got better. And so I don't think anything's different now. They have to prove to me that they've lost it before I get upset about it. So
yeah.
And honestly, before I knew anything about what was going on with creative, I love the Brock Lesnar stuff. Like, I thought when he came out to be the tag team partner, I was like, that is awesome. And then when he just attacked Cody, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. What's going on? I loved it. So at least that part, I wasn't happy with all of Raw, but like that part of it, I was like, this is great. This is awesome stuff.
I like the first hour. I like the last 15 minutes.
That's fair. I think you and I are in the same boat there because yeah, the middle of it felt like it didn't really matter, which felt very much like a year ago. Ross.
It just seems like an opportunity wasted, right? You got Jesus, they did a huge number. They did over 2.2 million viewers. They did 2.6 at the start. I mean, it just felt like a opportunity missed in a lot of ways by farting on the last 2 hours, you know, the fart in church kind of thing.
Yeah, it did. And it was kind of interesting watching it because it has been so good. I was like, is it just me or does this feel kind of lackluster? And then,
yeah.
Like, because I wasn't even sure. I was like, is this bad?
I was pumped for a while, and then I was like, what's going on? And then it just kept going in that direction.
Yeah, even the like the women's tag match for a shot at the titles, I was thinking, what was the showcase for at WrestleMania? Like,
right.
that was, I don't know. Because I assumed that was a slam dunk. Well, they're the next contenders. They won the showcase, but
Right.
I don't know. But in any case, so if you're unhappy, if anyone's reading this, you're unhappy about what Brock did to Cody, your boy was the one that planned it. So don't blame Vince McMahon. By the way, just side note, Vince McMahon is just unstoppable, isn't he? We sat here. Just side note, not even in my notes here. I'm just looking back on it, and like you can't kill this guy. Like, not only
he's that turd, he's that Owen Hart. Remember the Nugget.
not only did we think he was kicked out and done for, but he came back. He made $3 billion more than anyone thought he was going to make, and he's back in power. Like, this guy's unstoppable. It's incredible. Just,
he's the Nugget. He's the Nugget. Well, call him the Nugget.
He is the Nugget. The Nugget. What a great callback. Terry Allen Jr. No, go ahead.
I just think Vince is. I don't get the mustache.
Yeah,
it's such a 1950s villain thing going on, but you can't get rid of him. And look, it's an opportunity for AEW, in my opinion.
I mean, it feels very much like they went right back into being what gave AEW power.
Yeah.
At least with this one episode. It's one episode, so who knows? But again, it was like this is AEW's time to strike. If they can start lining stuff up and make stuff happen. That's what I loved about AEW Dynamite last night. Is I love that they started with Jay White's here. Jericho is facing down Keith Lee. Now we've got, I think it was the Acclaimed right after that, or so. I can't remember. No, it was House of Black right after that. Like, all stuff that makes, if I am that person that turned away for a little bit, going, whoa, this is crazy. This is interesting.
It's back to being an alternative as opposed to WWE for a while. There was being number one by far. And now all of a sudden it just feels like you have an alternative again. So
yeah,
I don't know. I thought, I think it's a great opportunity for AEW, assuming that things stay as they are with Vince and WWE.
The mustache and hair of Vince. Part of me
creeps me out.
It kind of does, but it kind of makes me like it because I'm like, yeah, Vince is the evil billionaire. He should be scary and creepy looking. He looks like if you were watching a movie about the evil billionaire.
A Mexican movie from the 50s, right? Like, he would be that villain.
Like a novella, one of those novellas, or what do they call them?
Right,
Gosh, that's so funny. We got a question from Terry Allen Jr. for you, though, Raj. Raj, rarely will you appear on the podcast.
When I'm invited, I'll be on.
He's gonna Raj gonna break your heart, Terry. Don't hold on to hope. He's gonna break your heart. I could tell. You're invited back, Raj.
Yeah, I'll anytime.
So we got a few other bits of news and notes here that I wanted to run by you here. And this is something that I thought was kind of cool to see. But Jonathan Gresham spoke with House of Wrestling, and this is a write-up on Wrestling Inc. from Olivia Quinlan, I hope I'm saying that right, said that Gresham reflected and said, I can admit that I was acting very unprofessionally while trying and failing to convey the message to my former employer. After weeks of feeling like I wasn't being heard or blown off, I was frustrated, to be honest. He went on to say, I know TK is a very busy guy owning a lot of different businesses, and I am a very small gear in this machine. That just came after so much time thinking about it through therapy and things of that nature. Raj, one of the reasons I like this, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, is in this world, in this day and age, it's so rare that people just admit, like, hey, I didn't handle that right. my bad. I apologize. And I think that's very big of Jonathan Gresham. I think that's a very cool thing for him to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, good for him, because I remember when he said that stuff, I was just like, you're burying yourself, man. What are you doing? Like, it just felt like, yeah, I feel like a lot of wrestlers today expect the world to be handed to them. And it's like, no, you got to get over.
Yeah.
And he wasn't over. And, again, I just think you get over. But I mean, there is a lot of bad booking going on right now with AEW. Like, look, Keith Lee and Swerve, they haven't had a match yet. That feud has been going on forever. So yes, it's fine to be frustrated, but to overreact, I just think it's just bad.
I get where someone like Gresham is coming from in the like just when he was originally upset because he was the champion of Ring of Honor, but again, it's he was going to a new company. It was a new world, and you have to start all over again, and that's difficult, I know, for anybody, but that's just kind of how it goes. And
yeah,
it's especially in a world like pro wrestling, when you're working for one of these major companies, they're going to be fine with or without you. And Mercedes Moné is one of the biggest stars you could ask for. WWE is doing just fine. And that's not a shot against Mercedes Moné. I mean, again, she's on TV, she's doing big things, and her value possibly is more than what she's was getting at WWE. But WWE is going to be fine if anyone walks away. AEW will be fine if anyone walks away. And so it's a tough spot to be in if you're going to come at the boss,
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
But I think it's cool that he is big enough to admit, like, hey, I handled it wrong, and I'm sorry. And that's entertainment too. You never like it, it's very hard to say this, but you don't take it personal, like I know there are times when I haven't gotten something that I thought I should have, and it's not personal. Then you get something and you're like, okay, that's cool. But you just got to go, okay.
Yeah. I just think it was a case where you're not this, be humble. You're not the star you think you were, and be humble, and you've got tons of opportunities coming your way.
Yep. So we'll see if he ever makes a comeback there, but I do think that he's doing good in Impact right now. So good on him. He landed on his feet, and hopefully he continues to do well. I don't know him, but I'm a fan of his wrestling, so hopefully he does well.
It's Impact.
It's as long as guys are getting paid, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But speaking of guys going different places, this was just a fun little bit of information. Vince McMahon apparently supported the idea of Chris Jericho facing Kenny Omega in New Japan, except for one part, and that was billing it as Alpha versus Omega, because Vince McMahon was starting a company called Alpha for the XFL, and he didn't want those two things linked. Raj, I'm just surprised that Vince McMahon was so open to the idea of Jericho doing it. In fact, Jericho says, Vince said, "You're a WWE guy anyways. People know it. Have fun with it." We're built with this idea that Vince holds on to these guys and no one's allowed to do anything. But this paints a very different picture of Vince, of him being like, go for it.
You remember, what was it, 2 years ago when Vince had Jericho on Broken Skull Sessions right after WrestleMania. And that following Wednesday, AEW did their best rating, one of the best ratings that they've ever done. Vince's can be weird like that, impulsive and then later being like, oh, that was a mistake. I think he sees Jericho on Broken Skull Sessions as a mistake. And how many Kenny Omega matches do you think Vince McMahon has really seen?
None.
I
don't think he's seen a single one.
That's kind of what I think too. So, yeah.
And I say that based off of Triple H a while back saying he doesn't think Vince has ever watched a full episode of NXT. And so if Vince isn't watching NXT, I don't think he's pulling up other companies to watch their shows.
Right.
I kind of get the feeling Vince is one of those guys that if you want to get in front of his eyeballs, you need to do something so that you're put in front of his eyeballs. He's not going to go out of his way to scout you. So I can't imagine that he has seen anything from Kenny Omega, and that's not a shot at Kenny Omega or anyone. I just don't think that's his.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's what he does. Mm-hmm. We got a couple more things before we're out of here. By the way, in the chat, let us know if there's anything you want us to chat about as well, by the way, if there's any news or anything we're missing. But this was something that we talked about a little bit on the show last night, but I want to get your take on it because I feel like this is something you're going to have a good perspective on. And that is, and this was written up by Ross Berman, the fourth on Wrestling Inc., that AEW has hired former WWE Vice President of Communications, Adam Hopkins. PW Insider is the ones that reported that. And they said that no official title has been confirmed, but according to multiple sources, he started with AEW last Wednesday. Raj, have you had any experiences with Adam Hopkins? And what does this mean for AEW?
Oh, I've had a ton. Adam Hopkins is great, easy to communicate with. He got my daughter's front row seats at Raw last year. He's great. He's great at what he does, and he is attentive. I think it's a great signing for AEW. He's a good guy.
Does he, as far as at least what he did with WWE, is he someone, because I see things like PR. Is that him booking talent on radio shows? Is that him handling the Twitter account?
Everything. Yeah.
Interesting. So we may see is he someone who might change things like the big announcements or what becomes a press release or what becomes an announcement? Or is that more a Tony Khan thing?
It'll be interesting because he was under WWE rules before, and so he was operating within those guidelines. And I think Tony's going to give him a lot more freedom. I think Adam's got tons and tons and tons of contacts throughout everything. So, I think this is a huge plus for AEW, in my opinion.
Something that I've not noticed, I'm not a big Twitter. I don't understand Twitter that well, but I have a pal that's he works in that world. And he would always complain about AEW's Twitter and how there's so many hashtags and @s and things like that. You can't even read it.
They suck.
And so now I'm like, will he fix that? Will they make that better? I don't know. But,
I hope so. Jeez, because it is hard to read. I feel like it feels like a teenage kid is running. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So hopefully that'll be something that gets worked on, and maybe this will be good for them as far as getting on more TV shows. Maybe we'll see like Today's Show or whatever. Again, that's one of those things. I say this is one of those signings that no one's going to talk about, but will be a big impact for AEW and will really help them out. We got a few listener questions. God, I'm radio guy. A few listener call-ins today. No, we got a few questions that have come in. I want to run them by you here. One came in on Twitter from @JuicySteen, who says, is there one wrestler that is not signed to AEW right now that you could plausibly see appear at All In?
Gosh, I can't think of anybody. Feels like everyone's tied up.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about American, because if you're talking about like anyone from New Japan could be there, or
Right.
that doesn't really help.
Yeah, I mean, if difference makers, no, I don't see anyone.
No. What about Mandy Rose, Killer Demon's throwing that name out there, or Monet?
She's not a difference maker. She's I sometimes I can be a little too blunt, but she's not going to make a difference with ratings. I'm a big fan of Mandy, but
yeah. I'm seeing Bailey listed a lot. Is Bailey's contract coming up?
Huh.
A few people have mentioned.
I should double check on that. But I don't want to sound like I'm being a dick, but I don't see her being a difference maker either. She's popular. She's a great talent. Love her. I think she's amazing. But gosh, real difference makers. CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, like the ones that are really going to make a difference in ratings and business. There's only a handful.
Yeah, I agree. I think as far as someone's
Drew is not one.
I think as far as someone's going to make a immediate like change in impact, there's got to be like only 5 people that realistically would change anything, at least immediately. And even some of my favorites, I don't think are going to change anything in a huge way. But to your point, yeah, like a John Cena, which they're not getting John Cena,
right? Yeah,
Goldberg,
I could see being a temporary blip in the ratings, but there's not many.
Yeah, very, very few. So I don't know. But I would guess there's going to be a lot of New Japan people there, especially if they have people who are like Zack Sabre Jr. and those guys. Anyone who has a tie to anywhere in Europe is going to be probably leaned on. We got a couple more questions in the chat here for you. Tony, and is it Tori? I don't know how to pronounce the name. Sorry if I mispronounced it, but asks, any news on Bray Wyatt and or Alexa Bliss?
Bray Wyatt has he had an issue, and that hasn't been resolved yet. Physical. So once that's resolved, he'll be back.
Yeah, anytime there's like a health issue, regardless of what it is, I always say kind of like hands off, like especially if you don't know, because if you don't know what the issue is, like they're just gonna have time, however long it takes. You just gotta wait that out. But speaking of that, Dellin13 asks, any updates on Randy Orton returning and Big E returning to WWE? Jack and Raj.
No, I mean Randy Orton still has it's going to be a bit with his back. I don't know about Big E.
Yeah, both of those are huge injuries that you can't count days on either of those.
You don't want to rush those,
No. And then Gotti Jr. asks, what do you think Triple H will say on SmackDown Friday night? Apparently WWE announced he's coming out to the ring Friday. Any predictions?
That Cody Rhodes will be facing Brock at Backlash. That would be my guess.
Oh, that's it. Just announce the match. That makes sense.
That's a big match.
Yeah, it is a huge match.
Bad Bunny and Ray versus Dominic and Damian Priest.
Speaking of Damian Priest, NYC Demon Diva.
Bad Bunny wrestling in Puerto Rico. That's gigantic,
I mean, that might actually be the announcement, is that instead of hosting, Bad Bunny will be main eventing, tag teaming with Ray against Dom and Damian Priest. Bing, bang, boom. Sold me a ticket. Sold one to Issa as well, I'm sure.
Hi, Issa.
Issa, when's your guy gonna face Roman Reigns, like the greatest celebrity wrestler ever? Logan Paul did. We gotta get Bad Bunny to step up, get in the ring with the tribal chief. Yeah, I don't know what Triple H is gonna say, but I think that works.
Issa, Roman or Bad Bunny? Who do you go for?
She said never. He's not Cody. You got to pick if they're in a match. Whose shirt are you wearing, Issa? The Roman Reigns shirt or the Bad Bunny shirt if they face each other?
That probably blew her mind. She's like, I can't pick that.
If they face each other at Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah. Okay.
Roman should be everyone and their parents.
I agree. I'm with you. Roman, look, if it's working, it's working, and Roman is working. So yeah, for sure.
100%. A few quick more questions about returns. We got one from More1 asking about AJ Styles, and then we got SEV about Nakamura. Any you heard anything about those two?
Nakamura's ready to come back whenever they got creative for him. So yeah, he's there. AJ Styles, I don't know. You know what? I'll double check on that.
And then we got a Tuckgraph asking, do you guys know when WWE's contract with Peacock expires? I don't know. I feel like it's 2 years.
That's
I'm just guessing.
2026.
2026.
Yeah.
So that's going to be for a while, regardless of the purchase, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then we got Veggie Gamer asking, what do you do with the women's titles now? Do you combine them? And if not, who drops first, Rhea or Bianca, and to whom? Raj, when Rhea was going for that title with Charlotte Flair, when Bianca retained, the first thing I thought is Rhea should unify these titles. But what say you?
Yeah, I think you combine them. I think all the titles should be combined. I think the champions appear on both shows, and look, I think I've been saying it forever. I think Roman should. I'd like to see him on both shows more often.
Yeah,
and I like one world champion, and if Cody were to win, if they were split the titles and Cody won that belt, it would make it seem less than because he just lost to Roman. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
He that title immediately would become less than. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I hate the idea of multiple champions under one company. You should know who your top people are and not have the split thing. I don't like how AEW likes to pretend that TNT and AEW champions are both equal. I hate that. Like, you need the one person up top, and I think it should be for all things.
They need to drop the FTW title. It's completely unnecessary. It means absolutely nothing. They need to make their titles mean more. And I just think AEW, they have so many belts now, and it's not helping them.
Nope. Yeah, at some point, if everyone's a champion, no one's a champion. Is the old,
right? 100%.
I go with. Also, with the FTW title, I don't believe there's actually a number that you can or can't have. I think it just depends on how you book. But like, I look at the FTW title. No one has ever said they want the FTW title. Like, no one's trying to get it. So that kind of tells me, why do you have it? Like, there's no one who's been like, man, my goal is to win that FTW title. I loved Taz when I was growing up. I was a kid watching him. Now I want that championship. No one has. Every match he's had has been inconsequential to whether or not he was the FTW champion.
I mean, there are episodes of Dynamite that I watch where it just feels like every graphic has a person with the belt, and it's like, regardless if it's AAA or New Japan or whatever, at some point, the elite of the elite should be exceptional. And when everyone has a belt, like you said, it means nothing.
Right. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I don't expect they'll get rid of those titles anytime soon, but there you go. I think that does it for us, unless you've got any other additional things you want to say. You still got 3 more episodes to do. That's about 3 more hours before you clock out, Raj.
Love you guys.
Well, where can the world find you online in the meantime?
Are we going to do our practical money? What's going on here?
I'm waiting for you whenever you're ready. It's been a little shaky financial time, so I don't know if I've been watching that stock market lately.
It was down 20 grand yesterday. Today's been good.
I don't know if I keep wondering, is today the day I want to tell people what I yeah, I'm down. Everyone should go just to be sure, in case we don't have Raj back. We only have Raj a few more times here. Everyone should go to youtube.com/@practicalmoney, hit the follow button, but then also hit the little bell in the corner so you get notified when we do update the show. And look, we talk about all sorts of different financial things and how we've used money to do good things, and you can listen to it. You cannot. It's not advice, just a little.
I feel like that first episode we did covered a lot of tracks, with just getting rid of debt and just everything. And I feel like I send that to a lot of people. Like, check this out. I'm willing to help. Give you. It's not advice, but whatever it is. But check this video out first and then go from there.
Yeah. And so everyone, at the very least, if you haven't done it yet, go there, watch that first video and see what you think. See if you adds any other questions, and you can always hit us up on Twitter or whatever and let us know if you have any additional questions as well. That's always helpful. But I think that does it for us, Raj. I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat: Veggie Gamer, Spaceman 584, Tuck Graph, More One, Mike Rouse, Sky High, Tony Torrey. We got Tuck Graph, Carlos Martinez, Bigfoot Sneakerhead coming through. I love the name there. Bigfoot Sneakerhead. I'm going to see Air today, right after this, actually, with the folks from Nike. Actually, I'm going to be with a bunch of Nike folks.
Wow.
To go watch. So it should be fun to go see that. And everyone else: Gotti Jr., SEV, Dellen, William Brewer, Nelly Belly 420, NYC Demon Diva. All of you guys, thanks so much for coming through. Brad One as well there, coming in right at the end of the chat there. You can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I did commentary for California Love, the first show of the collective. You can check it out, replay on Fight TV now. I'm going to be in Seattle to do some ring announcing for Defy, and I'm going to be back on Championship Wrestling on Tuesday. So I got more wrestling coming my way.
Man.
But I think that does it for us. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure to tune into the SmackDown and Rampage after show tomorrow right here